Ready to go?
Yeah.
All right, what we're doing is applying the third coat of wood dye to this particular piece of maple. This is a project that involves restoring this, which is Daisy Model 94 Red Ryder. This is a Plymouth, Michigan gun. And it's got a couple of neat features on it. It's got the old style Latigo loop, has a metal lever, has the hook loop front side. Shot tube is not in it, but it features the lightning loader, which is probably the best loading system Daisy ever put on these guns. As a RestOMod, it's already been modified because we've pulled the crappy forearm and we're going to replace it with this piece. And to mount this piece, we have to drill a hole and then put a mounting bolt in the bottom of the feed tube so it will secure the gun without a barrel band. This is the third coat of wood dye on this piece of glue-up fiddleback maple. And right now it's wet. You can see the striations and delineations. Whether or not you can see much of the chatoyance, it's an open question. Probably not. But after we get through this process and apply the Danish oil and let that cure and do the rest of the surface treatment, it will dance. It will dance. As the French say, the chatoyance will be incredible. So, process involved is you shape your stock to where you want it to be. This has 2 coats of dye on it as opposed to 3 on that one. And as you apply the dye, you'll see a pretty radical change in how the wood responds. The buttstock is a bigger piece of wood than the forearm, so the effect of the tiger stripes is spread out over a larger surface area. Basically, this is a wood stain, powdered wood, dye, not a stain. And I apply it with a brush because I put several coats on. And you can see the change that occurs when it's wet. Of course, it doesn't stay wet because it's water-based, so it will dry out over time and it will dull down. But that's okay, we want that, because once we get past the dyeing aspect, then we'll worry about the finish. Everything I do in terms of gun stock finish is based on Danish oil. Danish oil is a wood finishing system that will waterproof the wood to a certain degree. But the most important part to me is that in a Danish oil finish gun stock, if you ding it, bump it, bang it, knock a hole in it, put a big dent in it, that's recoverable. You can actually remove the dent without stripping the whole gun. If you go with poly finishes, which are very popular because they're durable and they're fast and they look good, a dent will turn into a crack will turn into a spider crack, and eventually the stuff will just flake off. So I don't like using that. It also doesn't feel right. Poly finishes have a real super slick feel to them, and when you're handling the weapon, you really don't get an idea that this is a piece of wood because it doesn't feel like it. So there we are. Now we have our, if we can find a spot where she'll stand, we have our third coat on. Now the objective is that by the time we get the Danish oil on and get the finishing done, we'll go from this slightly dark look to something like this. And because the maple is such a light wood to start with, I use 3 different wood dyes. I use a yellow dye, a red dye, and a brown dye. And that tends to grab into the various pieces of wood that want it. And you get the striations that show up really nice. And you can see some of the chatoyance there. You'll be able to see that the bands appear to shift through the spectrum. It's tough to pick that up under fluorescent, but it is an effect. And in sunlight, it's a big effect. It looks really impressive in full sun. So we're looking to see a color, a lighter color, like this, once we've actually applied the first coat of Danish oil and then hit it with a second coat of Danish oil and a 320 wet dry sandpaper to knock down the burr and cause some of that stuff to granulate up and then backfill the stock itself. When you get done with them, they're so smooth. They're just a joy to handle, and they look good, and they're maintainable. So that's the rest of my process on fiddleback maple for Daisy BB guns. This will be a 94 Red Ryder. And I think it's going to finish up nice. This particular gun's going to get the paint stripped off the receiver. We'll fire blue that. That'll give it a much deeper oxide blue look. Going to have to figure out what to do about the missing flip peep rear sight. It's gone. It's departed. Headed to parts unknown. But when we get done with it, she'll be a functional gun and will shoot really well. And it'll be something that hopefully will cause the owner to have some pride and put it on the wall where people can see it.